You see them everywhere. The guy at the stoplight in the brand new matte black Mercedes, the coworker who just bought a 5-bedroom house in the good neighborhood, the friend taking their third luxury vacation of the year. Society tells us these people are winning. They have the high-paying jobs, the impressive titles, the ultimate success. But what if I told you that behind closed doors, a massive percentage of these rich people are secretly suffocating? What if I told you that the guy in the Mercedes is one missed paycheck away from total financial collapse? Here is the biggest lie you've been fed about money. A high salary makes you rich. It doesn't. A high salary just gives you the potential to be rich. But for most people, making more money actually makes them more vulnerable. How is that mathematically possible? It's a psychological trap called lifestyle creep, or lifestyle inflation. Recent reports, like a striking study that recently made headlines, show a terrifying trend. People with high incomes are increasingly getting squeezed financially, not because of the economy or bad luck, but because of their own lifestyle choices. They are earning 6 figures, yet they are still living paycheck to paycheck. There is a famous concept called Parkinson's Law. It usually applies to time management, stating that work expands to fill the time available. But in personal finance, Parkinson's Law is even more brutal. Expenses always rise to meet income. Think about it. When you were making $40,000 a year, you survived. You drove a reliable used car. You lived in a modest apartment and you made it work. But the moment you start making $100,000, suddenly that old car isn't safe enough. The apartment feels too small. You convince yourself you deserve the expensive dinners and the designer clothes because you work so hard. You aren't actually building wealth. You are just upgrading your level of broke. Imagine you are standing in quicksand. Making a higher income is like someone throwing you a thicker, stronger rope. But instead of using that rope to pull yourself out to financial freedom, you use it to tie a massive, heavy gold anchor to your leg. That anchor is the new luxury car lease. It's the inflated mortgage. It's the expensive country club membership. You look rich to the outside world, but you are sinking faster than ever. You are trapped in survival mode, just with nicer things. Let's look at the exact psychology that forces us to buy things we don't need and how a trap called the Diderot Effect keeps us broke. To understand why earning more money often makes you poorer, we have to look at a psychological trap called the Diderot Effect. It is named after a French philosopher from the 1700s, Denis Diderot. Diderot lived a very simple, modest life, until one day he was gifted a beautiful, incredibly expensive scarlet robe. It was the nicest thing he had ever owned. But there was a problem. Once he put on this gorgeous robe, he looked around his house and realized his desk looked old and cheap. So he bought a new expensive desk. Then his chair didn't match the new desk, so he bought a leather chair. Then he needed new paintings to match the chair. Within months, Diderot was completely deeply in debt. Why? Because the purchase of one luxury item created a spiral of consumption. This happens to us every single day. You get a raise and decide to reward yourself with a slightly nicer apartment. But when you move in, your old IKEA couch looks terrible in the new living room. So you finance a $3,000 sectional. But now the TV looks tiny compared to the massive couch. So you buy a 75-inch flat screen. You didn't just upgrade your apartment. You unknowingly triggered a chain reaction of upgrades that wiped out your entire raise. This is why high earners feel like they have no money. They aren't buying one expensive thing. They are upgrading their entire baseline of existence. What is driving this? It's not logic, it's chemistry, specifically dopamine. When you buy that new car or the designer watch, your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine. You feel successful. You feel powerful. But here is the brutal truth about dopamine. It wears off fast. Within a few weeks, that brand new luxury car just becomes your car. The thrill is completely gone. So, to get that high again, you have to buy something even more expensive. You end up on a treadmill. But this isn't a normal treadmill. This treadmill speeds up the more money you feed it. You are running as fast as you can, earning $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year, just to stay in the exact same place emotionally. When you let lifestyle creep dictate your spending, you are essentially upgrading the cabin on a sinking ship. You have the nicest furniture, the best clothes, and the fanciest dinners, But structurally, your financial life is taking on water. You are operating in survival mode, but because it's wrapped in luxury, you don't even realize you are drowning. Let's strip away the feelings for a second and look at the actual math. In the next chapter, we are going to break down exactly how a $100,000 earner can end up far poorer than someone making half their salary. Let's step away from the feelings for a minute and look at the cold, hard numbers, because the math of lifestyle inflation is absolutely brutal. Let's imagine two people. Sarah makes $100,000 a year. David makes $50,000 a year. Society looks at Sarah and assumes she is twice as wealthy as David. But society only looks at the top line. They don't look at the burn rate. Sarah felt like she made it, so she upgraded her life. She took out a massive mortgage on a beautiful house. She leased a $60,000 SUV. She sends her kids to expensive activities, and she eats at high-end restaurants because, well, she works hard and she deserves it. Her fixed monthly expenses, the money she has to pay just to exist, are $6,500. David, making half the money, kept his ego in check. He rents a modest apartment, drives a paid-off 10-year-old Toyota, and cooks at home. His fixed monthly expenses are $2,000. Here is the terrifying reality of Sarah's situation. She has built a financial skyscraper, but the foundation is made of toothpicks. She is trapped in what I call the fixed cost straitjacket. If Sarah gets sick, or if she loses her high-paying corporate job, she is facing an immediate crisis. She cannot easily lower her expenses because she is locked into long-term contracts, car leases, and a massive mortgage. Her survival depends on keeping that high-stress job at all costs. She is a prisoner to her own lifestyle. David, on the other hand, is anti-fragile. If he loses his job, he can survive for months just by picking up a low-stress job or tapping into a small emergency fund. He has breathing room. He sleeps well at night. This brings us to the most important mathematical rule of wealth. Wealth is not your income. To hit your financial goals fast, you need to widen the gap. The gap is the difference between your income and your expenses. Even though Sarah makes twice as much money as David, her gap is zero. Every dollar that comes in goes right back out to pay for her inflated lifestyle. David might only make $50,000, but because his expenses are strictly controlled, he has a $1,000 gap every single month to invest in his future. David is actually building wealth. Sarah is just a highly paid middleman moving money from her employer directly to the car dealership and the bank. But why do smart people like Sarah do this to themselves? Why do we voluntarily put on these financial straitjackets? It all comes down to a toxic psychological game we don't even realize we are playing. So why do smart, high-earning people trap themselves in this financial straitjacket? If the math is so clearly bad, why do we keep doing it? Because we convince ourselves we are buying comfort. But that is a lie. After a certain point, a $60,000 car does not get you from point A to point B any faster or safer than a $20,000 car. A $4,000 couch doesn't feel mathematically 10 times softer than a $400 couch. We aren't buying comfort, we are buying status. We are playing a deeply ingrained psychological game, trying to signal to the tribe that we are successful. This leads to the ultimate trap. The invisible Joneses. Let's say you finally hit that magical $100,000 salary. You feel rich. You did it. To celebrate, you move out of your starter apartment and buy a house in a nicer neighborhood. But here's the catch. In your old neighborhood, your $100,000 salary made you the king of the hill. In your new neighborhood, every single person makes $100,000. Some make $200,000. Suddenly, your 5-year-old Honda looks pathetic parked next to your neighbor's brand new Tesla. Your kid's public school seems inadequate when the neighbors are talking about private academies. By moving to a richer area, you didn't elevate your status. You actually reset it to zero. You voluntarily move the goalposts on your own happiness. You are back at the bottom of the ladder, forced to start climbing all over again. This is the tragic paradox of modern wealth. The people who look the richest are often the ones carrying the heaviest burden. They are wearing a mask. When you see someone flashing a Rolex, designer shoes, and popping bottles on Instagram, your brain assumes they have $1 million in the bank. But in reality, true wealth is invisible. Wealth is the luxury car not purchased. It's the designer clothes not bought. It's the money sitting quietly in an index fund, compounding while you sleep. The guy in the flashy clothes is often stressed out, checking his credit card balance in the bathroom, terrified that someone will find out he is actually broke. Meanwhile, the actual millionaire next door is wearing a $10 plain t-shirt and sleeping like a baby. But what happens when the mask gets too heavy? What happens when your lifestyle costs $8,000 a month just to keep up appearances and you start hating your job? That is when the golden handcuffs lock into place. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the darkest side of lifestyle inflation. It's a concept corporate recruiters and high-end banks know all too well. It's called the golden handcuffs. When you were making $50,000 a year, your expenses were low. If your boss yelled at you, or if the company culture turned toxic, you had options. You could quit, take a month off to breathe, and find a job that paid $40,000 or $50,000 to cover your basic needs. You were agile. You had leverage. But what happens when your lifestyle expands to match a $150,000 salary? What happens when your mortgage, your two leased SUVs, and your expensive habits require $8,000 in cash every single month just to break even? You lose your freedom. You are no longer an independent person. You are an indentured servant to your own lifestyle. If you need $8,000 a month just to survive, you cannot quit your job. You cannot take a risk. You cannot start that business you've been dreaming about because the startup phase won't cover your massive overhead. You certainly can't tell a toxic boss, "I'm out." You have built a luxurious prison cell, and you handed the key to your employer. This is where the burnout begins. Millions of high earners are waking up every morning, putting on a designer suit, and driving a luxury car to a job that makes them utterly miserable. They are exhausted, stressed, and burnt out. But they have to slap a smile on their face because they have a $900 car payment due on the 15th. It sounds crazy, but you can make $200,000 a year and still be in scarcity mode. Psychologically, your brain doesn't care how many zeros are on your paycheck. It only cares about the margin of safety. If you make $10,000 a month but spend $9,900, your margin of error is basically zero. One unexpected medical bill, one major car repair, or one corporate layoff, and your entire empire crumbles. Your brain physically registers this lack of a buffer as a threat. You are constantly scanning for danger. You are living in a chronic state of fight or flight. Trying to build long-term wealth when you are in survival mode is like trying to plan a vacation while your house is on fire. You just can't do it. So, how do we put out the fire? How do we break the golden handcuffs and actually use a high income to buy freedom instead of stress? It requires a radical psychological shift. So, we know the trap. We know the math. We know how the golden handcuffs lock us into a life of high-stress survival. The question is, how do we escape? How do we break the cycle of lifestyle inflation and actually start building real wealth? The answer is a concept called artificial scarcity. Remember Parkinson's law from Chapter 1? Expenses always rise to meet income. If you have $10,000 sitting in your checking account at the beginning of the month, your brain will subconsciously find a way to spend exactly $10,000. It's human nature. To beat human nature, you have to reverse engineer the process. You have to make yourself feel broke on purpose. The moment your paycheck hits, before you pay your rent, before you buy groceries, and long before you look at a car dealership, you sweep a massive percentage of that money into an investment account that you cannot easily touch. You pay your future self first. If you make $10,000 a month, but you automatically transfer $3,000 to an index fund the morning you get paid, you force yourself to live on $7,000. You create an artificial boundary. You hide the money from your own ego. If you don't see it, you can't spend it. The second step in the escape plan is what I call the lifestyle freeze. This is the most powerful wealth-building lever in existence. Most people use a raise as an excuse to upgrade their lives. If they get a $1,000 a month raise, they immediately look for a $1,000 a month better apartment. When you implement a lifestyle freeze, you do the exact opposite. Let's say you currently make $60,000 a year and you survive just fine. Your bills are paid, you eat well, and you are comfortable. Next year, you get a promotion and start making $90,000. Instead of moving the goalposts, you freeze your lifestyle exactly where it is. You continue to live like you make $60,000. You drive the same car, you stay in the same house. You pretend the raise never happened. What happens to that extra $30,000? It goes straight into the gap, 100% of it. By freezing your baseline, every single dollar of new income becomes a wealth-building soldier fighting for your freedom. This is how people compress a 40-year working career into 10 or 15 years. They don't win the lottery, they just refuse to upgrade their lifestyle when their income skyrockets. Ultimately, escaping the trap requires a complete rewrite of how you define success. Society tells us that success is defined by what you can show the world. A giant house, a designer wardrobe, a $90,000 truck in the driveway. But those things are just liabilities wrapped in shiny metal. They tie you down. True success is the exact opposite of being tied down. True success is the walk-away fund. When you prioritize the Gap over the Gucci, you start accumulating capital. Soon, you have 6 months of living expenses saved up. Then a year. Then 2 years. Suddenly, your posture at work changes. When your company demands you work over the weekend for the 4th time this month, you don't panic. You don't cower in fear because you have a massive car payment due. You have a walk-away fund. You look your boss in the eye and say, "No, I won't be doing that." You take back your power. You negotiate better salaries because you project confidence, not desperation. The ultimate luxury in life isn't a Rolex. The ultimate luxury is waking up on a Tuesday morning and knowing that you do not have to do anything you don't want to do. That is what you are buying when you say no to lifestyle creep. You are buying your own life back. Let's bring this all together. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this entire video, it is this fundamental truth. Rich is a current income. Wealth is an accumulated safety net. Society has done a phenomenal job of confusing the two. When you see someone driving a $100,000 car, the only data point you actually know about their finances is that they have $100,000 less in the bank than they did yesterday. Or worse, they just took on $100,000 of high-interest debt. True wealth is invisible. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the first-class flight upgrades declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see. It is the part of the iceberg hidden deep underwater, while the rest of the world is only focused on the tiny, shiny tip sticking out above the surface. We are biologically wired to judge people's success by what we can visually see. Thousands of years ago, if someone in your tribe had the most food or the warmest clothing, they were clearly the most successful. It was obvious. But in the modern financial world, relying on visual cues is incredibly dangerous. It leads you directly into the trap we've been talking about, spending money you don't have, to buy things you don't truly need, just to impress people you don't even like. You have a choice to make. You can choose to look rich, or you can choose to actually be wealthy. Looking rich is utterly exhausting. It requires constant, relentless maintenance. It requires you to stay on that high-speed dopamine treadmill, absolutely terrified of slipping off and looking like a failure to your peers. It means your entire identity, your entire self-worth is tied to the brand of your car or the square footage of your house. Being wealthy, on the other hand, is quiet. It is unassuming. The millionaire next door doesn't need to post their watch on social media because they don't need validation from strangers on the internet. They have the ultimate validation, absolute peace of mind. They know that if the economy crashes tomorrow, their family is completely safe. They know that if their company does mass layoffs, they can take a 6-month vacation to figure out their next move. They know that their time belongs to them. It doesn't belong to a toxic boss, it doesn't belong to a mortgage lender, and it certainly doesn't belong to a car dealership. The goal of this channel isn't to tell you to live like a monk and never enjoy the money you work so hard for. If you love cars, buy the car, but only when you can actually afford it without putting on the golden handcuffs. The goal is to escape the cycle of mindless lifestyle inflation. The goal is to build a massive gap between what you earn and what you spend. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how much money you make. There are broke doctors making $400,000 a year living in total panic, and there are millionaire school teachers who never made more than $60,000 a year sleeping perfectly soundly. It is entirely 100% about how much money you keep. You are at a crossroads. Society has built a very specific, very shiny hamster wheel, and they are begging you to get on it. They want you to spend your next raise before it even hits your bank account. They want you to finance the car, upgrade the house, and post the pictures to prove that you are winning. But now you know the truth. You know that the hamster wheel is a trap designed to keep you working forever. You have the power to step off. You have the power to embrace the lifestyle freeze, widen your gap, and build an invisible fortress of wealth that no boss, no economic downturn, and no emergency can ever tear down. The choice is entirely yours. Do you want to look rich to strangers, or do you want to be wealthy for yourself? I want to hear from you. We have all fallen into the lifestyle creep trap at some point in our lives. What is one luxury or status symbol you used to spend money on, but recently cut out of your life and realized you don't even miss it? Let me know down in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps the whole community realize they aren't alone in breaking these habits. If this video shifted your perspective today, and you are ready to stop playing the status game and start playing the wealth game, do me a favor and hit that like button. It tells the YouTube algorithm to push this financial truth to other people who might be secretly drowning in their own golden handcuffs. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and join the Better Money Mindset family. We are building a community of people who value freedom over fake flexing. Now, once you freeze your lifestyle and start saving that extra money, where do you put it? How do you actually build that invisible wealth? Well, the late Charlie Munger famously said that the first $100,000 is a beast, but you have to find a way to get it. If you want to know exactly why crossing that specific six-figure mark is the ultimate cheat code to escaping the rat race, you need to watch this video right here on why the first $100,000 is the hardest. I break down the exact math to get there faster and why everything changes once you cross it. Click the video on the screen right now, and I will see you over there. Thanks for watching.